Welcome back to another episode of the On Deck Circle podcast. I am your handsome host, Nick Zanaboni. You can find me on Twitter at nzanaboni93. It is a late night for the On Deck Circle pod, so let's get Jason on in really quick just to get the shtick out of the way. What's up, my man? How are you?
What's up, Nick? Glad to be here again on a Tuesday night. Not too much later than normal, but yeah, a little bit later. Is that a fresh cut?
I'm the biggest baby with the times.
Yeah.
So I wake up at 5 Eastern, so I'm in bed usually by 9, and I'm up and out. So in the coming weeks, I believe we have a guest on the West Coast, and I will not be on the show.
That is correct. That is correct.
Way too late
past your bedtime.
It is way past my bedtime. And our resident geriatric, is that how you say like old guy? Dave, come on down.
Really? I mean, I just because I'm wiser doesn't not mean that I'm that much older. I mean, You're not wrong though.
No.
Speaking of fresh cuts, you can't tell because of the glare off my half bald head. But this is a fresh cut, Jason. This is about 4 hours.
As do I.
Oh,
couple days old.
All right. Well, I hope our guest came on with a haircut. Then little did he know everyone's coming with a fresh cut. Tuesday night, we're looking good. I tell you what, I'm super excited about this guest. It's going to be a little different than usual because a lot of everything we talk about is fantasy related. We've got a lot of great fantasy analysts coming on. We just had Jesse Roach on last week. I don't think it's been officially announced yet, but it will be here shortly. Matt Williams will be on with us next week. So I mean that's about as big of a name as it gets in our world. So excited to have him. But jumping on today. Is a minor league baseball announcer for my local hometown team. Has been doing it for quite a while. Literally is a gentleman that, gets paid to watch baseball for a living. So, as much baseball as the three of us think that we watch, he watches more than us combined. And he's going to give us a little bit of a different perspective, I think, because he looks at it from a real life vantage point, and we're a little more, fantasy orientated. So I want to go ahead and bring in our special guest here. It's Mr. Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, Ballpark Digest 2019 Minor League Baseball Broadcaster of the Year.
What?
So yeah, I mean, I don't just bring on any old buddy. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Jesse, but I think that a major league gig is in your future. What do you think of that?
I'd say control what you can control. What they like to tell the players in the clubhouse whenever anyone talks about the past, stop reading your own yearbook. So we'll see what 2022 holds, but this is fun.
All right. Well, I'm making the bold proclamation right now that's a face that you will see on national television one day. This guy is great at what he does. I mean, Jesse's the reason that I get to go to as much minor league baseball as I do. He's the one that provides me with, the media access at the Lansing Lugnuts. So a lot of the insights and such that I get, not just about them, but about, various teams are a direct, correlation to Jesse's kindness. So Jesse, thank you for that personally. It's a huge help for what we do. It tremendously is. But why don't you go ahead and give everyone a little bit about you? Obviously, I gave the big piece of news there with that massive award, that I'm sure that, you're proud of. But why don't you go ahead and just give a little bit of background on yourself?
Dave, thank you very much. Yeah, this is a pleasure. Born in Washington, D.C., grew up in Maryland, went to Ithaca College in central New York. I first worked for the Brockton Rocks Indie Ball in Brockton, Massachusetts.
Nice.
Yeah. Singing Ed Noddle was our manager with one leg, and Oil Can Boyd was our ace pitcher. Then from there, the next 2 years, I was with the Montgomery Biscuits, Double-A Tampa Bay. So Evan Longoria sat right behind me on the bus. And then from there, 2008, I joined the Windy City Thunderbolts. Not that a thunderbolt is a real thing, but sure, why not? That was a blast. And from Windy City, Southside Chicago, I joined the Lansing Lugnuts in 2009. with Henderson Alvarez, teenager, making that first opening day start. And I've been there covering first the Blue Jays low A, and as of 2021, the Oakland Athletics high A minor league baseball affiliate.
Yep, and exactly right. So we unfortunately have already covered the A's in our Dynasty deep dives. So had I been a little bit smarter, I would have held off on that and thought about you. But as a backup plan, we are going to go with the Blue Jays this week because, while you weren't, covering them, the entirety of last season, obviously there was no 2020. From 2019 and prior, nobody knows more about Blue Jays prospects than this man here. So let's go ahead and let's just get started. Jason, looks like you've got the pitcher this week. Why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about Alek Manoah?
Sure. I know he didn't quite make the stop there at Lansing, but we'll go ahead and talk about Manoah. He made his debut in 2021 with he had some great success, and he even received some Rookie of the Year considerations. He finished with a 3.22 ERA and a 1.05 WHIP and 111 innings pitched. Some more standouts about him this past year is he had a quality start in half of his starts as only a rookie. And then in the second half of 2021, which is where he made majority of his starts, he only had a 1.04 WHIP, which ranked as 17th best in baseball. And that's better than guys like Zach Wheeler, Garrett Cole, and even Brandon Woodruff, just to name a few. So clearly the repertoire is working. And then, if you look at that repertoire, he throws a 4-pitch mix of fastball, slider, sinker, and a changeup. All but the changeup are pretty much highly effective. He doesn't really throw the changeup a whole lot. I think it's more of a work in progress pitch. He's kind of trying to develop that changeup. He did have a CSW rate, which was wasn't quite north of 30%, but still very highly respectable at 28%. Both his strikeout rate and whiff rate ranked in the top 25% of baseball. While he doesn't have that huge high-end velocity, he still limits hard contact. He ranked in the top 10% of the league in hard hit rate. And I mean, if he can continue to develop that changeup and he can get a real solid 4-pitch mix, I could easily see him being a top 12 starting pitcher in dynasty leagues from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse, you're here as our guest, and I'm telling you right now, we're putting you to work. So, what are your thoughts on Manoah?
Yeah, so Rob Fay, the broadcaster in Vancouver, labeled him Mount Manoah. And all we knew was that he was a big, strong guy who bullied guys with his fastball slider combo. The question going into 2021, it was supposed to be the season of Nate Pearson. And then when things didn't go toward Pearson's favor in the combination of health and a combination of struggling and trying to figure out his identity on the hill, Alek Manoah never questioned who he was and what he wanted to do. And from the time that he showed up in the major leagues and on his way up in AAA, he was overpowering. And to see him do this after what I heard that he had struggled a bit in 2020 and trying to jump all the way up from short season ball, that the more teams saw of him, and you're talking about the American League East and games that mattered for the Toronto Blue Jays that they needed to have all the way down the stretch, I think we're looking at a guy who can build on that, continue to get better. I totally agree with Jason.
Yeah, and I'm 100% on board. I mean, I think a lot of people may look at his stats and think, well, he's not going to be able to repeat that going forward. And I completely disagree. I mean, his XBA was under 200. It was 199, and major league average is 246. So, he's not giving up, much for contact. His X slug was in the top 10% of the league at just 321. He doesn't get hit very hard. His hard hit rate, 31.2%. That's top 7% in the league. And so those are the kind of things that I look at and I see that I say, this kid's stuff is for real. His stuff should not get any worse. It's only going to get better with experience. So long as he can stay healthy, because you guys know my concerns with pitching, but so as long as he can stay healthy, there is no reason at all to honestly question, what he did in 2021 and question if he can continue it. What say you, handsome boy Nick?
Alek Manoah is my favorite young pitcher.
There you go.
Baseball. I like him more than Baz, who I love, which you guys saw last week in my
Basmanian Devil.
The Basmanian Devil, which is a fantastic. Like, why is that not a thing?
I don't know. I read that and I thought that was phenomenal.
Like, can we make T-shirts? Like,
I don't know. Jesse,
get on it before Roto wear it is.
Yeah, maybe I'll let him know.
He wanted to be what? The Wizard of Baz, which doesn't work as well.
No,
Oh no, Basmania Devil.
Tasmanian Devil
Awesome.
because he's got the hair too. Like it's perfect.
Oh man, it's
Sign me up for marketing. Tampa Bay Rays, please. But anyway, Alec Manoah, I'm seeing Lance Lynn in his future, and that's it.
Right,
I love
well,
Lance Lynn too.
Let's get to your hitter, Nick. We got my dude, Mr. Gavin Biggio.
Wait, is he actually your dude? You big
Dave loves him.
Yeah, he was I asked him to be my Valentine, and he said yes.
Wait, is this like a real thing?
It can be. I don't don't call me out on it because I have no proof. Let's just go on with it.
So unfortunately for Kevin Biggio, he doesn't actually hit. So I don't know if we should really put him as a hitter. But gassing myself up too much tonight. Sorry, guys. So unfortunately for Biggio, he kind of got lumped in with Vlad. Coming up, it was him and Vlad, and then everyone saw them both. Biggio actually was pretty good in 2020. Yeah, his first year up, he wasn't terrible. But last year, I understand average isn't a actual category in things that we do. Typically, it's more of an OBP where he's not terrible on the OBP, but I think the Blue Jays are going to be good enough to be able to pick and choose when they play him. And if he can't hit the ball, I don't think they're going to play him. So he's somebody that I like to avoid. I did see that former guest of this show, Dap Scout, wrote him up this week.
Man, yeah. I am way on the other side of the fence on Biggio than you. Oh, absolutely. I mean, 2019 and 2020 were, very similar-ish, good years for him. 2021 was very much a down season.
Yeah.
And I mean, for OBP purposes, this dude is a stud. 364 and 365 on base in 2019 and 2020. And that 375, I mean, that's quite a high mark. And then it was all the way down to 322 last season. And that was a huge, killer for him. And I was, digging into, the stats obviously here a little bit and, trying to get a feel for, what's the difference? What was the difference between what he did the first 2 years when he was, a very good player, and then 2021 when, he really started to fall out of favor because he wasn't producing. And to be honest with you, I mean, there's not a whole lot here to look at. I mean, the things that I come across that stand out to me the most really are he just got more aggressive at the plate, and that's what was taking away, from that, on base that, he was, so well known for. And when he was, swinging, he's still making a lot of contact. He just wasn't getting on base. So if I look at his zone contact rates, for example, almost identical all 3 years. So it's not like he was, not like there was, a ton of swing and miss necessarily. His chase percentage went up, but, being that he was getting more aggressive at the plate, that's where the chase percentage went up. I mean, his chase contact rate was still, right in line with what you saw in 2019. His first pitch swing percent, that went way up. We're talking difference between 17, 18% up to over 25%. So he just got more aggressive at the plate and it didn't pan out for him. I think a lot of times you see, younger players, usually start off too aggressively and kind of tail it back. And it seems like he went the other direction. I don't know if that was just an approach kind of a thing and he might dial that back, or if he'll just start making better contact, and actually start to provide you with more counting stats than what you were getting in 2019 and 2020.
Would you say this is me looking too much at the regular stats as opposed to me looking deeper? Because you just convinced me that I might be in on Kevin Biggio.
Well, my opinion and your opinion don't mean as much to me as Jesse's opinion, because Jesse, I'm sure has a lot to say about Mr. Biggio.
Yeah, I think it's very important what you just mentioned in terms of his first swing percentage. And you talked about that being his aggressiveness going up. I would like to focus instead on the pitcher's approach to him.
Yeah.
Calvin Biggio was seen as a non-prospect before he went to AA and broke out, and people didn't believe it. Even he's there in New Hampshire, and he had to keep doing it month after month with a new uppercut swing where he was hitting home runs and he was drawing walks. And the walks were always seen as legit because he was constantly seen as he's got the best batting eye in the Toronto Blue Jays organization right next to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. However, is this power real? Is this power that would stand up at the major league level? So he brings this great batting eye into the major leagues. And what happened this past year was, and you can check his exit velocities, pitchers realize that you can't nibble around the corners with him. He knows what's a strike and what's a ball. So they went right after him. And now he's realizing, okay, the approach from pitchers against me has changed. Their scout toward me has changed. I now need to change because they're coming right after me with strikes early and often. And he flew out a lot to the warning track. Those exit velocities with him, how hard is he hitting it? How well is he barreling it? And how far is it going? That became a true concern. What also became a true concern with him was, what's his defensive position? He was being used as a super utility guy, but he wasn't necessarily playing positions at an above average rate defensively. So I think as we go into this year for Calvin Biggio, when he hits it, because pitchers are going to challenge him, where's it going to end up? Tampa Bay had that scouting report of him that they love to roll out, where they just put 4 outfielders and they said, we know you're going to get lofted. We've got the guys to cover the outfield, and if you're not going to hit it out, we're going to catch it. So how does he adjust coming into this year? Because pitchers are going to challenge him. They do not want to walk him.
Yeah, and to me, that's the beauty of baseball. Is it's an ever-changing thing, and that's where I think you get a lot of hot streaks, a lot of cold streaks, because it's just a game of adjustments, especially at the big league level when it's just the best of the best. It's how people adjust to things. And this is where Jesse's perspective is invaluable, because you can look at numbers and stuff all you want to, and you can try to put it into context. But when you can really marry, eyes on the field to numbers, that's where you really can start to, find actionable, information. And so, everything that Jesse said makes absolute perfect sense. And I'm 100% on board with it.
Yeah, great insight. I didn't even think about the, adjusting to the pitchers more or less being just aggressive. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So let me get to my prospect. This is a guy that I've loved for a long time. And Jesse's already smiling. I mean, for a while, this has been one of my favorites. And it's Eric Pardinho. No, Eric Pardinho. The reason that I actually kind of got onto him is I remember back in the World Baseball Classic, he was a 16-year-old kid, and he got in and he pitched in the World Baseball Classic. And to me, that's crazy that he was 16 and doing that. And once upon a time, almost a year to the date, I actually did an article on the Fantasy Six Pack site where I did a profile on Eric Pardinho. And it's just a guy that I own everywhere that I can, and in Dynasty places, just because I think he's got such an upside still, and he's just been hurt a lot, and he really hasn't really pitched much at all. As a matter of fact, if we look at his minor league stats, he's got a whopping 90.2 innings since 2018. So I mean, he's only got 20 games started. So there's not a huge sample on him because he's been so hurt. I mean, Jesse's seen a little bit of him in Lansing. 2019, he had 33 2/3 innings there. And when he's been, on the mound, he's put up, good numbers. And I think that there's a lot of room for him to grow. And I could sit there and I could read through my article and talk to you about my thoughts on his fastball and his curveball and his changeup and all that fun stuff. But I think hearing it from Jesse will mean a little bit more. So Jesse, why don't you tell me what your thoughts on Eric Pardinho?
Scouts did not like him. He's very small.
He is very small. Yes.
He's not been a good body guy. In 2018, he was spectacular. 2019, he joins us, and our pitching coach is head over heels in love, and just said to everybody else on the coaching staff, watch him. He understands what he's doing. He understands what the job of a pitcher is so much better than anybody else. He is now 21 years old. He is a January 2001 baby. So he goes out there, and in 2019, he's working in the 80s. And I'm talking to scouts who are going, I know how much they paid. I know like his background. What is this? And it just came out that he didn't feel right. So he was not putting his foot to the gas. He was working at comfortable velocities and comfortable everything for him. So to see him basically going out there and restricting himself and still getting swings and misses, still doing whatever he wanted, but it was clear that he wasn't in rhythm. And then he got shut down. The big question on Pardinho is, what is his health now? Because he's had now a series of setbacks. This wasn't just one thing. Okay, undergo Tommy John surgery. You're back. Let's go. This has been more than one setback. So when he returns, whenever that is that he returns, who is he going to be? This is exceptional. The arm, the ability to spin it, the ability to change speeds with multiple different pitches, it's fantastic. What's that velocity going to be? He can't be that 86, 87, 88 he was in Lansing when he was taking really good care of himself. I think he's a gigantic question mark. But if he comes back with any kind of semblance of what he was, he gives you anything. Because there's no like Alek Manoah body to grow into. He's my size, but I'm 5'6" and a quarter. He's a little taller, but I really like him as a guy, and I really like his pitching intellect. I just wonder what he's going to be in the end when he returns, because there were all those concerns in the first place from scouts before there ever was an injury.
Yeah, and Jesse's right on. I mean, if this kid can come back healthy, he can sit there, and I mean, there's no reason to think that he won't, when healthy, throw that fastball, 93, 95 consistently. And that's what you're going to need to see from him. But yeah, he's right that, he is a small dude, but I don't let that persuade me too much, because the number one thing that I'm looking for in a young pitcher is, can he pitch? Not can he throw, not what is his stuff, can he pitch? That is something that you really cannot teach. We can refine grips, and we can work on different pitches and that kind of stuff, but it's hard or next to impossible, I think, to teach a kid how to pitch exactly. Pitch sequencing, and that kind of stuff. You can learn some of that, but a lot of that has to just be natural, and so that's part of my fascination with him. And I think that unless you're in a 30-team league like us morons, he's going to be available pretty much anywhere you are. And I think that that's a guy that you can get pretty cheap. That is going to be a low risk, but potentially, medium to high reward, because if he stays healthy, he's got every opportunity to be, maybe not a front line, but, maybe a 3-4, kind of starter at the big league level. And I think that can be extraordinarily valuable.
For sure.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's get a little more Jesse centric here. Jesse, we got a couple questions for you, and you kind of take them and you do what you want with them, and we'll follow along with you. All right,
I'm ready.
So we're going Blue Jays centric here. So I want to hear your thoughts. Who are the guys in that Blue Jays system that you think have the highest ceiling?
I think you start with Gabby Moreno. So Gabriel Moreno was in Lansing in 2019, so I got to see him. And the fun part about that 2019 season was we started off the year with Alejandro Kirk and Jordan Groshans hitting 3-4 in whatever order. That was a pleasure. Groshans got hurt. Kirk got promoted. Well, now we need a catcher. So who's the catcher in the system right behind Kirk? It's Gabriel Moreno. And he shows up, and he's slender. He's about 5 feet 10 inches tall, thereabouts. And he's got the quickest wrists and the best hands. Watching him, and this is a comparison that I don't want to go too far over the top with. He reminded me of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in that he could recognize instantly where a pitch was going to be out of the pitcher's hand, and then know with his hands what to do with it. Well, the coaching staff really had to work with him because, okay, great, you can hit everything. You can hit it outside, inside, up, down. Vladimir Guerrero's father could do that too with those great hands. But you know what? You're young. If you go chasing 2 feet outside, I know you can hit it, but you're not going to barrel it. However, if that pitch is in the strike zone, you can hit that one a lot harder. See, he's young, he's raw, he's a kid just running around having a great old time like Vladdy Jr. He's a soccer midfielder in his spare time. Loves soccer, just a tremendous athlete. Blue Jays signed him as a shortstop coming out, and then they moved him to catcher, and they signed him for virtually nothing. Great scouting decision, especially the catching conversion. His bat-to-ball ability, and I'll compare him a little bit to Otto Lopez, another minor leaguer. Those 2 guys would be all-stars in wiffle ball. That's how good that bat-to-ball ability is, just to be able to see it and have the wrist to do something about it. And those wrists are so good that he has unexpected pop. You combine that with the fact that the release, the arm strength, the way he handles pitchers, his mentality, his personality, the pure hitting ability, he makes me really excited. And so it was a joy to see him blow up in Double-A. He got hurt, unfortunately, but then he came right back for the Arizona Fall League, and now he's playing in Venezuela. The guy's going to hit in the major leagues. His ceiling is enormous.
Yeah, and I mean, in dynasty circles, there's really only 3 catchers that interest me because, the catching position is usually one that a lot of us will tend to punt, to not really pay much attention to. One is obvious, is Adley Rutschman. Number 2 is, again, just another one of my guys, Diego Cartaya. And then number 3 is Gabriel Moreno. Those are about the only 3 guys that I would go out of my way to get. If I don't have any one of those 3, or I can't get any one of those 3, then, whatever, I'll just platoon a couple guys. But yeah, those are the only 3 catchers that I have any real interest in. Let's see. Another guy I know you want to talk about and again, and maybe I just love the Blue Jays too much. Another one of my dudes, Orelvis Martinez. I absolutely love this guy. I own him almost everywhere that I can. Talk to me a little bit about this kid, Jesse.
All right, so let's be cautious about Orelvis.
Let's not.
Orelvis is raw. And I'm tentative about everything that was done in the low A leagues last year because I feel like low A baseball was short season baseball. Because of all the players who were released, in my experience, the vast majority of all those minor leaguers who were released between 2020 and the start of 2021 were organizational guys around high A, Double-A. So all the AAA guys were right there where they should be, waiting for their chance at the major leagues. And then you had low A guys being pushed into high A when maybe they weren't ready. You had high A guys being pushed into Double-A when maybe they weren't ready. And organizations were taking different philosophies. So some organizations, you saw teams thrive, and others, you saw the entire team just sink. And all of those guys are going to go right back to that same affiliate this year, and they're going to try to repeat that level and get things right. So because of that, low A, what things are these guys actually legit low A players? Are they short season players? Orelvis Martinez destroyed the low A Southeast, destroyed it.
Yeah,
went up to high A Vancouver, things got a little bit more trouble. However, the guy has, and this is when we're talking ceiling. Ceiling is a major league all-star slugging bat. He's got great power. He's going to sell out for that power. They paid him money. They signed him because he could hit, and he can hit. So wherever they start him, if they start him in high A, which is where I would send him if I'm the Blue Jays, or if they push him into Double-A, he's going to be challenged by some older pitching this year. And some pitchers that are going to try to figure things out, try to mess with the scout, attack him in different ways. I almost expect Orelvis to get off to a slow start. But if his adjustment happens, the ability, the outright raw hitting ability is, I would argue, better than any other hitter in the Blue Jays org, let alone Gabby Moreno.
Wow.
Yeah, and I kind of do wonder, though, if he makes his major league debut with the Blue Jays, because he's blocked everywhere. And And there's lots of rumors going around about Jose Ramirez coming to the Blue Jays, and so that blocks another spot for him. So to be fair, he might end up being a deadline guy that goes God only knows where to get whatever it is that the Blue Jays think they need, because they're win now, and that's what they're shooting for. So he may be a guy that depends on where he goes, but I've seen a couple comps on him, and I'm curious your thoughts here, Jesse, because this is a big name, but it makes sense to me. Adrian Beltre.
Where I worry about with Beltre is the glove. So
Well,
I
right.
sort of set the glove aside a little bit.
Offensively.
Yeah, I can't. I have a hard time separating Beltre's glove from his bat because
I gotcha.
we're putting him in Cooperstown. Yeah, he could totally have that bat.
That's a comp that I've seen.
Just don't touch his head.
Right, exactly. Here's where I get fascinated by where players are placed is, and Dave, let's get right at that, showcasing guys for trades. We just saw the Blue Jays trade Austin Martin and Simeon Woods Richardson for Jose Barrios. So clearly, the Blue Jays are saying, if you like one of our prospects, and I would think that currently, unless you are a very specific person, Gabby Moreno for one,
Right.
I think Jordan Groshans is available if people want him. Although there are certain aspects of Groshans that excite me. I think it's going to be interesting to see where the Blue Jays challenge Martinez to start this year and where does his stock go, because he could very well be a sell high guy. If I'm the Blue Jays and I value him, I want to keep him, then I stay very patient with him. I don't rush him. You say he's blocked right now. Well, he's not ready for the major leagues this year.
No, not even
Probably
close.
not ready in 2023.
Correct.
So you say if you're the Blue Jays, we have an ETA of 2024 on him. And let's see how we can develop him leading into 2024. Let's take our time and let's get every ounce that we can from that bat.
And I don't think that that's how GMs think. I think GMs think I am all in right now. I'm going to trade for Jose Ramirez. You can have Jordan Groshans. You can have Orelvis Martinez, and tell me what else you want. But we'll see. I mean, he'll be an interesting guy to keep track of for sure. Any other high ceiling guys you want to hit on, Jesse, or do you want to move on?
I mean, the two guys that we don't know a lot about. I love drafts, and the Blue Jays had a fascinating draft last year. Ricky Tiedemann and Gunnar Hoagland. Whenever Gunnar pitches. And Ricky coming into this year had great reports on him. The Blue Jays do not have a lot of high ceiling pitchers remaining in their organization. So these two guys jump right to the top. You used high draft picks on them. You went right after the Ole Miss ace and Gunnar. I think it's going to be fascinating to see where they land, how they do when Gunnar comes back. And like Eric Pardinho becomes put him in your back pocket. Let's see. It's going to be fascinating to see how he comes back. But there aren't going to be a lot of eyes on Pardinho. There are going to be eyes on those two, because I think both of them have great ceilings as pitchers.
Yeah, and I mean, you definitely can't have too many young arms in your system, because you blow through arms real quick. So now let's talk about some Blue Jay prospects that you expect that we will see maybe the biggest improvements in come 2022, Jesse.
I didn't like Jordan Groshans starting this past year at AA. I thought that was a challenge promotion, so that's great for him. He's a very confident guy. But if you look at 2019, he played a month with Lansing. He got hurt. He was out the rest of the year. And that's when Lansing was low A. And then after just 1 month in low A, you skip him over high A, you put him right into AA, and he held his own. That staggered me. And I still want to see good health from him for a full year. He's an unbalanced guy who can hit with some power. And I mean, power that's going to surprise you. When he hits home runs, they're no doubters. He hits majestic home runs. He hits laser shots. He has great pitch recognition ability, and he's still so young. So I think that we might underestimate him because of his production in AA when he was still young and inexperienced for that level. He's got a lot that he has yet to show. And he's now 1 year older. He's put on 1 year more of muscle. That is a proud hitter. We'll see what he is defensive-wise, but all of his potential, very similar to Orelvis, it's all in the bat. And I think his bat is better than people understand.
I mean, and to be fair, I think it's easy to kind of, I wouldn't say forget about him, but to kind of put him on the back burner whenever, since 2019, he's only had a little bit over 500 at bats. So, if he was healthy and putting up numbers, I think the view on him would be drastically different than it is right now. Another guy that I know you want to talk about, Zach Cook.
Okay. So Zach Cook is a personal pet project of mine because I was able to speak with him right after he signed as an undrafted free agent in the 5-round draft. So who knows where he would have actually been drafted. But the Blue Jays have a hitting coach named Matt Young. And Matt Young coached Zach Cook in club ball. So he came out of the University of Texas at Arlington. He plays every position, and he's good. So you can put him at second base, he'll be good. Put him in center field, he'll be good. He shows up last year. He battled with injuries early. So what was he healthy for the entire year, and what is he? I think he's a good defensive center fielder / infielder who has pop. He steals bases. His batting eye is so-so. But for a guy you can hit, and a guy who can draw a couple of walks, and a guy who can steal bases, there is a ton of value in him. He strikes out a lot, and I think that's the big concern is his swing and miss. But I think a player that helps you in so many different ways, I think he is so far off the radar for everybody that's just a name, Zach, Z-A-C, Zach Cook, that you've got to watch because he has a chance to make a leap this coming year.
There you go. See that's a good one. But you point out his strikeout rate, and it's high. 100 strikeouts in 278 plate appearances. So, and that's not uncommon, for someone that's young. But it is a little concerning. Obviously, you had 12 home runs, so figure on pace for 25 home run season. So. Not exactly the kind of power you expect to always see from that kind of a strikeout rate, but definitely a name to keep in mind. What about Trent Palmer? I know he's on your list as well. I mostly want to hear your thoughts on his control because I think that is probably the sticking point on him. But what are your thoughts on Trent Palmer?
Troubled me that he spent the year in low A based on what I believed low A to be. And I thought that, okay, this is going to be an advanced guy. He's a third rounder. He's a college pick. Get him up to high A. And so, okay, maybe command the problem. I think that we would all be wise to look at walks and strikeouts in the low A Southeast with a grain of salt. Because the low A Southeast was the automatic umpire league last year.
Okay.
Look at Leo Jimenez's walk stats. That guy, and he's got a great batting eye, and he showed it again in the Arizona Fall League. But depending on whether you were a hitter or whether you were a pitcher, how well did you adjust to the ABS? That was key. In a human error, human umpiring system, what we have learned is there are a lot more strikes that are called. And in the ABS system, with how things currently were, and especially how they were in the low A Southeast last year, that strike zone was tight, really tight. And he wasn't getting the strikes that he was getting in college. He finished the year, though, with back-to-back no-hitters. He made the adjustment.
I heard that's pretty good.
So I'm going, if this guy at the end of the year has adjusted to the point that he has no-hitting teams in back-to-back games, that's a guy that I want to see how he attacks 2022. How does he spend the offseason, and how does he come out this year, especially when the Blue Jays are looking for pitching prospects to step up? I'm looking at Palmer.
And anyone else you want to mention with just guys that you could see big improvements from this upcoming year?
Yeah, I want to keep an eye on Hagen Danner. I don't know how well you guys know the Hagen Danner story.
Former catcher?
Yes, former. Okay, so let's go back a little bit even beyond that. He was the Little League hero. His Little League team growing up, they won the Little League championship coming from Huntington Beach, California. And the Blue Jays actually took a couple of the guys off his Little League team, took a couple of those Huntington Beach guys with him. So we got to see 3 of them all together, which was a joy. When you're a hero at 10, 11, 12 years old, and now he grows up and he goes to high school and he's a catcher/pitcher, and he's California's high school player of the year. But the big question is, okay, what do you do next? Because unlike other players whom we can look at, Shohei Ohtani being up here, Hagen Danner is not going to be a two-way player at the next level. And what I had heard was the question was posed to him. Hey, what do you want to do? You want to pitch? And he said, I want to hit. Here we go. Let's go. Let's give this a try. Well, as a catcher, he's got a rocket arm. He showed off great power, but it never came together offensively. He drew walks, but he just could not put together those consistent at-bats. The bat plane, the swing plane was all wrong. And I thought he was going to be done. I thought that he was not going to be able to swallow his ego and come back. And he swallowed his ego and he converted. And not only does he convert, he goes high A. He jumps over Trent Palmer. He jumps over those guys. He goes right up to Vancouver. And they treat him very carefully. So he gets 35 and 2/3 innings in his first season as a pitcher, right? And what does he do as a pitcher? 21 hits in those 35 and 2/3, 42 strikeouts, 12 walks. He only allows 2 home runs.
Yeah, he pitched well.
I look at those numbers and I go, this guy was dynamite in the Vancouver Canadians bullpen. I think they were playing in Hillsborough, right? Where were they playing in Oregon? Eugene. There is no way he's not going to be better now that he's got that year under his belt. And he's going to go up to Double-A. If he takes that step forward even more, the fact that he was able to convert so easily, and that he's had a full offseason now to work on pitching, if he goes out there and dominates in Double-A, we're looking at a guy who could make his major league debut out of the Blue Jays bullpen later on this season.
Yeah, agree.
I think he's a guy to have on the radar out of nowhere.
Yeah, I completely agree. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So let's get a little bit, well, not a little bit. Let's get off the Blue Jays, and let's talk about non-Blue Jay prospects, because obviously you see just as many, road teams as you do home teams, and so you've got to see quite a nice list of guys come through there. And I know that some of the guys you want to talk about are some of the guys that I was most excited to go see in person. And anyone that listens to this often knows that the Cleveland system is one of my favorites. And so I know that there's some Cleveland guys that you want to talk about, and that I was excited to see. So why don't you talk to me a little bit about the non-Blue Jay prospects that you saw and, we're really excited about?
Dave, I love that Cleveland system.
I know. Me too.
We've got ballers all over the field. I'll give you the anti-Eric Pardinho, because Pardinho, we talked about, he knew what he was doing. Daniel Espino. So the story that we had a great defensive catcher in Drew Millis, who was then traded to the Washington Nationals. Whenever he comes up, he's going to play 10 years for somebody as a catcher in the major leagues just because his defensive ability is that great. Drew Millis, after we took on Espino, I spoke with him afterward, and he goes, boy, if that guy understood pitch sequencing, if that guy understood what to throw where, batters would be helpless. His stuff is so good. He was striking out 12, 13, 14 guys in 5, 6 innings with ease and without understanding the greater depths. I think about martial arts. Are you a brown belt? Are you a yellow belt? Are you a black belt? All of those different levels to get to. And Espino is just out there throwing that great stuff. And maybe he makes a mistake, or maybe he throws the wrong pitch at the wrong time. It's a great pitch, but the guy's expecting it, so he's giving the guy help. If he's working with a great pitching coach and a great catcher, and he gets another year older, sky's the limit for that arm. That arm is fantastic.
And I've said on this venue before, I think that this time next year, I have no doubt that he's going to be the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball.
If he isn't, let's say first stay healthy, because that's always the worry with pitching.
Right.
It's going to be with him understanding what to throw when. And if he does, you're going to see his stats get better. How cool is that?
Yeah.
So I know we got a couple more guys that play for Lake County that you want to talk about. So another guy that I'm big on out in the outfield, George Valera. I know that you're a big fan of George. You give us a little more reason to love him.
Looks like a superstar. Dude looks like an absolute superstar. His arm is a rocket. You don't run on that arm. At the plate, The batting eye is superb. So he recognizes immediately. I love guys who you can just tell when the pitcher throws it, they know exactly what the pitcher is doing and they know where that pitch is going to end up. And the power is fantastic to all fields. The bat is quick, he knows, he barrels, and no ballpark can hold him. So you couple the power and the bat quickness with the batting eye and that great arm, and I'm looking at an all-star.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And then if we move over to the infield now, we got Jose Tena.
Yeah, I think that Tana is fascinating. They had other guys. I never really got to see any flashes from Aaron Bracho. I think that Brian Rocchio looks really good, or Brian Lavastida looks fine. Jose Tena stood out. For middle infielder, he can play short, he can play second, switch hit. He's once again, that's an above average defensive player who at home plate he can hit, and he hits with pop. He's not a big guy, and yet he destroys the baseball. So he makes your eyes open wide. He has skills to dream on when he gets older.
Yeah, he's not my favorite. I'm a Rocchio guy, and I was a little higher on Bracho, but I mean he struggled hardcore. Yeah, he struggled hardcore. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, we just named almost a full major league team, and we talked about Cleveland. I mean the future there is ridiculous. And then another guy I know you want to talk about is the guy that you saw in Lansing, Lawrence Butler.
Yeah, I think Lawrence Butler is a guy worth keeping your eye on. He was drafted out of Atlanta in high school, and he did not distinguish himself in 2019. He comes in 2021. They send him to low A down in Stockton, and he's got tools. He's this big left-handed batter that once again, you watch him play and you go, power to all field, and it looks easy. You throw him outside, he just reaches out there, goes and gets it. Suddenly you've got a line drive home run to left, and it looks like he didn't exert himself. And you leave one in his happy zone, and he can take you way out to center, way out to right center. He hit one in Stockton, I think it was 450, 460, 470. They're playing him in first base, where he's fine, and in center field, where I saw him make a marvelous catch in batting practice, and in right field. His batting eye looks good. Strikeouts are high, walks are high, home runs are high, and he can run. He can steal a ton of bases for you. So once again, those are so many tools that he can use to help his team out.
Yeah, and he's the guy that, I feel like, the strikeouts are worth the risk there, because if you just look at, his stats combined, between low A and high A last year, I mean, they're ridiculous. 19 home runs, 29 RBIs. He's a slash line of 273, 367, and 504. I mean, we'll see what happens as he progresses. But I mean, that just goes to show that that's a power speed combination with, at least a good eye. I mean, those are good on base numbers. So, and that's definitely a very under the radar kind of guy that I'm guessing that Jesse's going to see a lot of next year, because I'm assuming he's going to be right back in Lansing to start the season off.
It's going to be interesting to see where they put Zach Geloff and Brian Buelvas and all those guys. But I just think that his power speed combination is legit.
Yeah, it looks to be. It looks to be for sure. I'll be very excited to get some eyes on him. And then kind of maybe the last guy that you want to talk about is another guy that I absolutely love. I had the pleasure of seeing him hit a pretty good home run to left field at the end of the last season. And that's the Dodgers outfielder, Andy Pages.
Pages. So number one, he or George Valera, I'd like to see those guys engage in a throw-off. The skill competition across all sports, clock their arms coming from the outfield. We had Griffin Conine a couple of years ago, and I think we got his arm at one point at 97 miles an hour from right field. I want to see what Valera throws, and Andy Pages has, you can insert your metaphor. He's got a howitzer. It's awesome. It is unfair for a guy to be that fast and that big, and his bat, I love guys who it's like they hit fly balls, but they're just too big for the ballpark that they're playing in. It's like watching an 18-year-old playing in a T-ball park where you go, you mishit that. You got jammed. That ball should not fly out. He is so strong at such a young age that he hits home runs and he doesn't need to get all of it. So if he gets all of it, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he hit 31 home runs in 120 games last year at high A. I mean, I think that says a lot. And he's not a guy that's under the radar. I think a lot of people know who he is. And I don't remember. Do you remember, Jesse, whenever I texted you during the game? Because you remember, I was confused. I literally, for my life, thought his last name was Pages.
Yeah.
And when it was being announced, I had to text him like, "What the heck is his last name?" And then you phonetically spelled it out for me, and I went, "Oh, I don't know if anybody knows that." So that was interesting. And then I think the next night we were on, and so then I talked quite a bit about him.
Yes.
Because I mean, he had a great game, and that was the first time I seen him live, and I went, yeah, this kid is legit. There's no question about it. Anybody else that you want to talk about, Jesse? I know we briefly hit on Otto Lopez. I don't know if you want to get a little bit more into him or anyone else you want to kind of make mention of.
Otto Lopez is a wiffle ball player. Wherever you throw it, he hits it. His bat-to-ball skills are awesome. And so his backstory is he was born in the Dominican. He then moved to Montreal with his family, and then moved back to the Dominican Republic. So fluent in French, fluent in Spanish, fluent in English. Has tried playing hockey. The different sports that he's good at and enjoys, he can do whatever he wants. But he wasn't a priority guy. So the Blue Jays are batting him 1 through 9 coming up, and they play him wherever. He's a legitimate super utility guy because you've got priority guys who are playing all the other positions. So, give our center fielder a day off, Otto goes to center. Shortstop gets the day off, Otto goes to short. He played every single position, outfield, infield, except first base, because why would you put this little guy at first base? And he batted every single spot in the order 1 through 9. And he just went out there. And in 2019, he won the Midwest League batting crown, like an afterthought. Like, oh yeah, he's this incredible hitter who continues to get 1, 2, 3 hits every single day. And then he goes up to AA and he does it again. So I think people are starting to understand he hits. He just hits wherever he goes.
Yeah, man. Anybody else, Jesse?
I mean, any names that you guys want to throw at me?
No, I think we've covered quite a laundry list, and that's good.
We need to bring you back.
Yeah,
we don't have a budget. We don't have the budget to bring Jesse back. Jesse cleared us out.
Wait, real quick. Why don't we bridge I think it was last week's episode and this week's episode, and give us a little bit of tidbits on Griffin Conine. I didn't briefly mention him last week, and then we talked about him. I think Dave brought him up last week, now with the Marlins, but you did see him, in 2019. So, what are your thoughts on Conine?
I mean, it's fascinating because at his best, his power is major league, his arm is major league. The guy looks like you want to hit him 3, 4 in the order, and he's going to be incredible. He's going to be a major league impact bet. We saw so many strikeouts in 2019. So I think that's the question, is strikeouts versus the home runs.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think his bat is going to play at the level that you need him to at the big league level. He's got the ability, like you said. I think there's too much swing and miss to that game.
Tell you what, he was best friends with Gabriel Moreno. That was a fun pairing to see all the time.
Yeah, he needs to get together with him a little bit there, it sounds like. Wow. All right, well, hey, Jesse, it's been fantastic. I warned the guys ahead of time that you were going to be a treasure trove of knowledge. You did not disappoint at all.
Awesome stuff.
Your insights are absolutely phenomenal. It is going to be some big shoes to fill next week for Matt Williams coming on. With Matt, we are going to talk about some players that we think in 2022 may well underperform. So it'll be a little bit of an interesting discussion there to So you definitely won't want to miss that, especially with a lot of people starting to draft, probably in redrafts and stuff for this upcoming season. Going to give you some guys that you might want to think twice about. But Jesse, before we go, want to give you the floor one last time. Anything that you want to promote or let people know about?
Nothing.
I have a question for Jesse.
Go ahead.
So, well, it's more of a statement that it's going to end in a question. It's hilarious that he has ties to all three of us because we got Windy City for Jason, Brockton for me, and
Lansing for Dave.
Yeah, and we're neighbors. So,
where did you live?
Where did I live in Brockton?
Well, yeah, if you lived in Brockton.
So I lived just outside. Here, is there a neighboring town that starts with the letter E?
Easton?
Yeah, I lived in Easton.
Nice. Yeah, I live in Braintree. Well, I lived in Braintree, and now I live in Southie, in Boston.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just thought it was so funny. Great.
Well, oh shoot, I'm forgetting the guy's name. There's a member of the San Francisco Giants coaching staff that I'd see it. He was a catcher in the Tampa Bay Rays organization. He's a local guy for the Brockton area. He was our bullpen catcher in Brockton. And suddenly Tampa Bay brought him in, and first he was a catcher in their system. Then they brought him in as a manager, and he was seen as such a bright guy that Gabe Kapler was like, "You're joining my Giants coaching staff."
Wow.
It's wild to see him just
That's very cool.
continue to shoot his way up. But this is cool. This is cool to shrink that geography.
Yeah. Right.
And I guess
right.
buy my book, The Baseball Thesaurus. Go
There you
online,
go.
Google it up.
Perfect.
All right, Jesse, again, man, absolute pleasure. I thank you for taking the time out while on the road even to do this with us. So thank you so much. I appreciate everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week with Mr. Matt Williams.
See you, boys.
See you guys.